Hey guys, it's Vanessa. I am here today with a super ambitious video. I'm going to be telling you all of my 5-star reads. On Twitter I took part in that thing where you had to ask your followers what mythological creature they got the vibe from you, and everyone said vampire apart from like one pixie and one witch, and honestly like that is a mood. That's kind of like what I'm channeling today. So thanks for the feedback. So book star ratings, they're not set in stone. What I would say would be a 5-star read to someone wouldn't be a 5-star read to someone else. Some people will give out 5 stars more frequently than others. I've read over 300 books. I'm quite picky when it comes to 5-star ratings. I have a list. I think there's only like 30 on this list. To get a 5-star rating from me, it's got to be near perfect. And I am one of these people that gives half-star ratings on Goodreads. There's quite a lot of 4.5 where I've just felt like they've just been lacking in something. Generally, it's something I look for is that it's very well written, it's very unique, it has fun characters, it's well developed, and at no point did I not enjoy reading it. So I have quite high standards when it comes to 5-star reviews. I don't really have a plan for this video. I might start off talking a little bit about them, but if it starts running into like incredibly long time, I'll probably just list them. But I'm hoping it's entertaining. So I've got Goodreads on my phone and let's just do it. So the first one on my list is every volume of Saga. Every volume of Saga I rated 5 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend this for people over the age of 18 as it is quite graphic. One of the things I really look for as well in graphic novels is how good the art is, and that does affect my 5-star rating as well. I'm trying to find a PG friendly page in here, which is quite hard. It really shouldn't be this hard. Nope. If we just don't read the words and just look at it quickly, it's colourful, it's well done. It's had a lot of time and effort put into it. I love the storyline. It's sort of like a Romeo and Juliet storyline where these are from different planets. Their planets are at war, however they love each other, they're married, and they have a baby. And the baby is like half him, half her. She has wings and he has horns, and the baby has both. So the baby is a little bit of a mutant and people don't like it. So they're trying to escape to a safe place in space so that they can raise their daughter. I absolutely love the series. I've read it so many times. The next one is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I don't think I need to say too much about this because it was turned into a movie which was very successful. It's a little bit like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory set in the future. The world is no longer a nice place to live and people live inside this virtual reality, and a competition takes place to take over the virtual reality in the game sort of thing. But it makes lots of references to 80s music as well. I really enjoyed this. My fiance, who isn't a reader, really enjoyed it. I think anybody would pick this up and find it to be fun. The next one is the majority of the Fables series. This wasn't necessarily for the earlier books, but books in the middle of the series and books at the end really picked this series up. Oh my god, the neighbour is back, I swear to god. The art in this is a little bit more comic-y, but these are quite old. This is a very long series. I physically don't own them all because I can't afford them. I did get them out of the library to finish the series, but honestly it is so good. It takes all of the fairy tale characters that you know and love and puts them into a modern day New York and gives them all stories and challenges that they must overcome. But it is so good. This is less graphic and it has a bit more of a storyline than Saga. So, there's hundreds of storylines in this comic, but I would highly recommend. Next I have Eat and Love Yourself. I read this recently. It is a graphic novel. I'm not sure if it's the first in a series or a standalone. I was given it as an arc, but it didn't affect how I feel about it at all. It had beautiful artwork with a beautiful colour story, and it was about a girl that's struggling with her own self-image and eating disorders. I thought any young woman would like this, and don't think it's published until May. But if you do see it, I'd recommend picking it up. It is worth the publish price. Next I have Eleanor Park. I read this in January. I traded it in for book credit, but I really regret it. I think I'm just going to go out and rebuy it. This is a young adult contemporary romance about a girl who's from a very underprivileged background. She struggles a lot in her home life and she meets a Korean boy called Park on the bus just to and from school. She's a new girl, she has no friends. Park doesn't really have a lot of friends either, and he likes to sit and listen to music and read comics on the bus. And it's something that they bond over eventually, even though it's at the start, they have a rocky start, they don't really like each other. But eventually they become boyfriend and girlfriend, and it is the cutest story ever. Next is To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. This is a novella, this is a standalone, it's not part of any series. Becky Chambers is one of my favourite science fiction authors. This is a book where it's set a little bit in the future, not too far ahead, where governments no longer have space programs because they can't afford it. So space programs have been taken over by private companies which crowdfund their money. These are a crew that are carrying out scientific discoveries on 4 planets that they think may be able to host habitable life. And it's all about their experiences of being on these planets and their journey between the planets and their relationship with Earth still, because the connection becomes a little bit fuzzy. But I highly recommend it. It's not very long. I think I read it in a day. But I would reread this over and over again. It's such a fun read and it makes you think a lot about the future. Next I have A Storm of Swords, part 1 and part 2. This is book 3 in the Song of Ice and Fire, you know, the Game of Thrones series. I did also rate book 1 5 out of 5 stars, but then this was the only other book that I did rate 5 out of 5 stars. Book 2 was a little bit slow for me, but the 3rd one I thought was the best in the series. Next is one which is an absolute standout for me, and that is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. This book made me Kim Kardashian cry for about 2 days. I will never get over this book. I will never read this book again. I don't know why I still have it. It is a quick read. I mean, I think I read it in about 2 hours. But it is so heartbreaking. It's basically a boy's struggle to come to terms with his mom dying of cancer, and the monster calls is sort of like the personification of worry and anxiety about death. If you haven't already read it and you want a book that'll make you cry, this is definitely it. Otherwise, I regret ever reading this because it made me so sad, but I absolutely love it at the same time. Next is The Puppet Show by M.W. Craven. This is the first book in a crime series. I also rated book 2 5 out of 5 stars. I've spoke about this a lot on this channel. I think M.W. Craven is a fantastic author, especially for crime. If you do like J.K. Rowling's Cormoran Strike series, you will like this one even more, I promise you that. Not only is the crime really interesting and I couldn't guess it at all, but you get so attached to the characters. The main detective is Washington Poe, and he is a very troubled detective from Cumbria who gets into a lot of trouble, who likes to do things his way. Shut up. Oh, hi Rebecca, it's you. And his sidekick is Tilly, who is a socially awkward girl who struggles to fit in with the rest of the workforce. So yeah, love the series. Next is Eve of Man, which I have just reread because the second book is now out and I'm halfway through that as well. Eve of Man is a young adult fantasy novel. It is set in the future where a baby girl hasn't been born in 50 years and then a baby girl is born. They call her Eve. They put her in a tower for her own protection, and they basically are trying to find a way to repopulate the planet through her. But it is such a fun, great adventure, and I would again rate it 5 out of 5 stars on my second reread. The next one is Nosferatu by Joe Hill. Joe Hill is the son of Stephen King, but Nosferatu is honestly the scariest book that I've ever read. It gave me everything that I wanted from a Stephen King novel. I didn't realise it at the time, but this is also like a Christmas-based horror story. We follow the childhood and adult life of a girl who is able to conjure herself into spaces, sort of, that don't really exist but do exist. She is able to ride a bike across a bridge that only she can see, and if she's thinking about something that's lost, she will be transported to the place where it was lost, and so she can bring it back, and she can find it and bring it back and return it to where it should be. However, she isn't the only person with that ability. There's also a man who has the ability to conjure up a whole space where only he can visit. He has a house there and he calls it Christmas Land, and he goes and pinches little children, takes them to a joyous Christmas land and uses them to keep himself alive, sort of like a vampire. It's crazy. It's a crazy ride, but it's so good. The next is The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. This book seems to be a little bit like Marmite. I absolutely love this book. It's one of my favourite books of all time, but a lot of other people really don't like it. I'm finding that people aren't really on the fence about this. You either love it or you hate it. This is an Agatha Christie-esque fantasy crime book. The main character has no recollection of who he is, but he wakes up in different people's bodies and witnesses a murder, and he takes on the memories and the personality of these different people, and these people are all witnesses to a crime which he must solve. I've had a gin, so I can't make that sound any less complicated than what I've made it sound like. It's just a good book. I enjoyed it. The next is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J Maas. This is book 2 in the Throne of Glass series. This was the only book that I rated 5 stars. I genuinely really enjoyed this book, but I felt like the series totally went downhill after it. So I've not actually finished the series. Book 2 will always have a place in my heart. Then I have The Cuckoos Calling by Robert Galbraith. Here's J.K. Rowling writing a crime novel under her pseudonym. This is the Cormoran Strike series that I mentioned previously. Again, like The Puppet Show, it's a really good crime novel. You get very attached to the characters, and it is a really popular series. I'd be surprised if you like crime and you haven't read it. I think I also rated books 2 and 3 5 stars, but they'll come up later. Next, I have the Alumni series. I rated all books in this series 5 out of 5 stars. Again, this is a little bit like Marmite. Some people really like the format and others really don't. I personally love the document memo style format because I just think it's so much fun and it's a really fun plot. We are very far in the future with this novel. Humans live in different planets. Our main characters are working and living on a planet which is invaded by a corporation, and they're trying to travel through space to a safe place so that they can outrun the bad guys. However, some bad stuff happens on board and they're fighting the enemy with it as well. Next, another one of my favourite books of absolutely all time is The Virgin Suicides. I can't tell you what it is about this book that I really like, but I reread this about, 4 times, and I've absolutely loved it every time. I don't know if it's just the ambience, it's a little bit Tumblr-y, but I don't know, it's just, the premise is awful, but the book is so good. It's a boy's account of these group of sisters that go to the same school as him, and one by one these sisters commit suicide. It does explore the reasons behind their actions, and he is sort of looking at it from a different perspective. It was also made into a very famous movie. I enjoy it, but due to the theme of the novel, I probably wouldn't recommend it to anyone. You'd have to make up your own judgment on whether you could read this or not. Next was volumes 1 and 2 of Rat Queens. I really enjoyed this when it first came out, but then they changed the artist because the artist went to prison, and I felt like the story changed as well as the art changed, and it just didn't seem like the same comic anymore. I really loved the friendship in this. I loved that there was a woman with a beard. That was pretty cool, and I genuinely enjoyed their adventures until I think it was volume 4 where it just totally changed the whole vibe and I didn't like it anymore. There's a lot of graphic novels on this. The next one is Snuggles volume 1. I've only read volume 1, I've not read past it, but I really enjoyed it. It was about a girl that has green hair and is very popular on social media. I can't remember what else it has to it other than she has a problem where she snots a lot, which sounds really disgusting, but to her it's like something that she tries to hide because she wants to live this beautiful Instagram worthy life. I do mean to pick up more of these. It's not rated very high on Goodreads, it only has an average rating of 3.5, but I don't know, I love the irony of it. The hardest part of this video is trying to get the books off the shelves. Ugh. Next is An Ember in Ashes. This is the first in a trilogy. I've never read the second and third books, but I've always meant to because this was such a fun read. I remember reading this for the first time and I was reading this till 4 o'clock in the morning because I couldn't put it down. It's a young adult fantasy romance novel. It's a little bit, how to say, it's a bit Romeo and Juliet-ish, but more like Noughts and Crosses, the YA book. Oh, it's got so much action and so much drama in it. I really liked it. It's got a very unique fantasy universe and a very unique power society system, so highly recommend that if you're looking for a fun read. Then I have the entire Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief series. I started reading this a couple of years ago, so I was quite an old reader coming into this, but reading this for the first time was like reading Harry Potter for the first time. It gave me so much nostalgia. I completely loved it. This has nearly 2 million ratings with an average rating of 4.25, which is really impressive in my opinion. If you like Greek mythology and you haven't got around to reading this, I highly recommend doing so. Don't be put off by the fact it's middle grade because it reads more like a YA and it's about a lot of friendship, which I love. Next is Us by David Nichols. This is an adult contemporary book. This might not be interesting for people who like YA. A husband and wife who have an older son are hitting a rough patch in their marriage, and they decide to drive around Europe to try and bring them closer together as a family unit. Whether it works or not, you have to read it and find out. Where honestly, since making my books colour coordinated, I just can't find one I'm looking for. It's the only downside though. It looks great. Here we have One Dark Throne, which is, I believe, book 2 in the 3 Dark Crown series. This could be book 3, but this is the only one that I did actually rate 5 stars. The first one I think I rated 4.5 because there was just a little bit of slowness at the start, which put me off rating it 5 stars, but this one was not slow at all. This was a full-on adventure. 3 Dark Crowns is about 3 sisters who are born as princesses. Their mother is the queen, and the queen dies during childbirth, which is natural for this world. And the 3 sisters are separated at birth. They are allocated to families based on their magical abilities. One of them can speak to animals, another one is a poisoner, and the third one is an elementalist who can control the elements. And usually the I gave up. Usually one of them is stronger than most of them. Pretty obvious since childhood who is going to win. However, in this case, all 3 sisters are evenly powerful. I can't speak. They all have a good chance at winning this. I don't know if I said they actually have to fight to the death or not. They have to fight to the death. So, it's a fun story. Next, I have the entirety of the Harry Potter series. Don't need to talk anymore about that. Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre is the only classic on this list, because this is the only one that I've truly enjoyed. I don't know what it was about this one, but the writing in it was just absolutely beautiful, atmospheric. It really transported me back in time. It's such a basic romance story, but at the same time, for its time, it was absolutely revolutionary. The fact that Jane Eyre had so much about her and was willing to walk away from what she wants to give other people what she perceives as a better life, or to look after her own mental health and well-being, truly top class. Well done. Next is again a bit controversial, but it is Lolita. Again, like the Virgin Suicides, I don't know what it was about this, I just absolutely loved it. I kind of liked that the main character was really unreliable. I thought it was smart. For a book about a topic which, if I say, this video will probably be banned, I thought it was very tasteful. Like I said, it's controversial. People downvote. People rate this 1 out of 1 stars purely because of the topic and the nature, and I totally get that. But I thought it's a beautifully written book. Also, if it seems like I'm looking at the viewfinder a lot, I'm sorry, I am. But my camera keeps overheating, so I never know if it's recording. Which, oh god, I'm really sorry, but if I start looking away too much, it goes off. Next, I rated books 1 and 2 in the... I don't know what series this is called actually. It's by Jackie Collins, and I think they were written in the 80s. But book 1 is called Chances, and book 2 is called Lucky. And this is a very long series, of which I've only read the first 3 books, but I intend to finish the series. This is, how do I describe this? It's an adult series about the lives of a family, but the main character is a girl called Lucky. However, the first book, Chances, is all about the lead up to her birth, and it focuses on her dad and her mum. And her dad goes from having nothing to being like this super mafia guy who buys casinos in Vegas and really starts the foundations of Vegas. He's an Italian-American immigrant, and he's sort of like putting the roots down for Italian mafia in America. The second book, Lucky is in young adult, and she's starting to sort of dabble in the life of crime herself and gets embroidered in the crime world. So yeah, it's a book about gangsters, really, but it's great. It's really, really, really good, and it's really well written. I can totally see why Jackie Collins is such a famous author. Continuing on with crime and underworld, we have Casino Royale by Ian Fleming. This is the first book in the James Bond series. I believe it's book 1 in any way that you look at the series. I know people read them sometimes by publication order, or some people read them in order that they think they should be read based on the chronology of what happens in the series. But I believe Casino Royale is actually the first to be written of the James Bond novels, and comes first in every order. I don't need to tell you who James Bond is. We all know. And honestly, Casino Royale was the best adaptation to a movie. There, I said it, I know, unpopular opinion, but that's my favourite James Bond movie. The book is a lot different. The book is worth reading even if you watch the movies, because this was written a long time ago and you can tell because of the way they write about women, but it's still great. We're at the end. Oh my god, okay, and we're ending it with a beast. The last book that I've ever rated 5-star, well, not true, because some of them I've actually gone back and like demoted them because my reading sort of expectations have grown with time, is The Stand by Stephen King. This is an absolute Bible of a book. This is over 1,000 pages of pure goodness. This is the war and peace of dystopian literature. There is so much detail in this. This is such a fantastically written book. It's set in a world where there is a plague and it's killing off humanity. Everything starts to go really apocalyptic, even more so than now. The survivors start adapting to a new way of life. However, they are starting to have dreams about a darkness or a figure who they perceive as having an evil vibe, and they all feel drawn to a certain point in America. But I just don't know, it's just, this novel isn't just about one thing, it is about so many things and so many characters. It has so many storylines going through it. Once I actually finished this, I was like, wow, what a read. I would reread this. I want to reread this. This for me is like the epitome of Stephen King. So there we are. That is the books that I've rated 5 out of 5 stars out of every book that I've ever read, which is about, let me tell you, 337 books. So my expectation is high, I know. If you would like to see me do a video of all the 1-star books that I've rated, which honestly will be longer than this one because I'm sure I've hated more than what I've liked, please give this video a thumbs up and let me know in the comments that you'd like to see that. If this video does well, I'll definitely be doing the 1-star rated ones as well. And let me know what your thoughts on some of these books are, or some of the books, or tell me about some of the books that you've read and rated 5 stars as well, so I can go and look at them on Goodreads and add them to my TBR list, even though I have already 800 books on there. So this has been such a fun video. Thank you for supporting me in this channel and allowing me to make content like this. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!